and I'm with the Social Research and Planning Council. Welcome. It's great to see everyone. I just want to, if Lauren and Lisa could give a quick wave as we're sort of scrolling through people. I just want to acknowledge our wonderful staff that helped us in our monthly meetings and getting this organized. When Ryan jumps, Ryan Erb, our executive director, when he jumps in, he can take over. I know he's running from another meeting to this one. I wanted to, these are KEYs workshops, and so they are sponsored by our wonderful Libro. And I just want to ask Marty to say a couple of words.
Yeah, I just want to welcome everyone to this seminar. Libro has been a proud supporter of this seminar series for many, many years, and I do want to applaud the United Way for adapting so well through the pandemic in the sense of offering these virtually. I think we found that more people are able to attend and to participate, and I think that just makes things better for everyone. Just want to talk a little bit about Libro Credit Union. We are the largest credit union in Southwestern Ontario, and we're a financial co-op that focused solely on the area of Southwestern Ontario. And our purpose is to grow prosperity in our communities by transforming banking. Community is really important to us. The regional economy matters, and individual and collective success support each other as well. Libro is also a B Corp. Not sure how many of you know much about B Corps, but those are businesses that balance profit and purpose. It's something that we've been very deliberate about over the last couple of years. So we use our business as a force for good. We understand that through our products and services, our operations, our business practices, profits, partnerships, and collaborations, we can positively impact our communities and help address some of the most challenging issues in Southwestern Ontario, and specifically within Huron Perth. And we've identified 4 areas that we identify as the 4 Libro pillars. These are key areas that we focus on to deliver on our promise to grow prosperity in our communities. And those 4 areas are, and I'll just quickly go through them. One is around employment. How do we increase productive employment and decent work for everyone? How do we help reduce the talent shortage? How do we support key business segments such as agriculture and small business, and also including social enterprises and cooperatives? The second pillar is around financial resiliency, or helping people with money management. How do we help improve the financial capacity of both people, businesses, and organizations? The third one's around local food accessibility, and how can we contribute to improve the food systems to increase access to local food for all? And the fourth one is around housing, which more and more I feel is probably our largest challenge in the area. So how and where can we play a role to enhance access to adequate, safe, and affordable housing for all? And all of these pillars are very much aligned to the values of the United Way. And I know we've had a strong partnership and a relationship with the United Way for many years. Well, one way that we support like-minded organizations is through our grants, sponsorships, and partnership programs. Some recent examples of organizations we have supported include Gateway Center of Excellence for Rural Health, the Goderich Community Gardens, the local Community Food Center in Stratford, Shelter Link out of Stratford, the Technical Training Group, as well as both Optimism Place and the Huron Women's Shelters. We do have a number of different levels of sponsorships that we have, and any information can be found on our website, which is at www.libro.ca. And I certainly open up to any of you on the call. If any of those 4 areas, the 4 pillars, are also of special interest to you and you want to begin a discussion with us, please reach out at any time. We're certainly happy to chat with anyone. And on that note, Joelle, I will pass it back to you, and I wish you all a great presentation today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marty. Appreciate it. I'm just going to tap Ryan Erb, our executive director, on the shoulder, and he's going to jump in.
All right. Hey, welcome everybody. So glad you're here to join us for this workshop today. And thanks, Marty, for that great introduction to Libro, and again for your generous support sponsorship for what we continue to do to educate our community and come together and learn. So I have the privilege to introduce our guest speaker today. Emily Bailey, and she's, of course, doing the workshop on storytelling and the use of social media this morning. Emily is a digital marketing instructor and entrepreneur. She's a member of the Canadian Marketing Association and a global ambassador for Hootsuite. Through her business, Compass Content Marketing, she has provided content and social media marketing services to clients, including the Adoption Council of Ontario, Northern Ontario Travel, Huron County Economic Development, Grand Bend Chamber of Commerce, Backyard Living Expo, and more. Through her workshops, she helps empower small business owners and not-for-profit organizations to make better use of social media platforms. She has 15 years of experience in the marketing industry and grew up in Elsie Craig. So welcome, Emily. So grateful that you're here, and we'll look forward to learning from you today.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you to all of you for having me today. Really excited to be here and spend the next hour or so with such a wonderful group of people. Today's topic is storytelling and social media. And this is such a big, exciting topic, I think, because there's so much potential that social media holds. There's also so much potential that storytelling holds for your organization, no matter what that organization may be. It may be a nonprofit, it may be a small business, it may be a larger business. The principles that we'll talk about today can be applied in any sort of business or nonprofit. So today's presentation is geared toward folks like yourself who are working on, personal endeavors, professional endeavors, and so on, with the goal of really engaging people and getting more people on board. These digital tools that we use today have become so important. And today I'm going to talk about some low-cost options that you can use to sort of maximize your presence online. So the key topics that we'll cover in today's session, and by the way, if you wish to receive a copy of these slides, you can drop me a line. I will leave my contact information for all of you at the end of the presentation. You can email me. You can also follow me on my social media channels to get further information or marketing tips and so on going forward. So if something springs to mind and you want to write something down or you want to take notes, you are more than welcome to, but please know that you don't need to if you wish to receive a copy of these slides. I'm more than happy to share them after the presentation. So key topics we'll look at today. What is storytelling? What does that actually mean? What does that look like for an organization such as yours? Some engagement tactics. And when we say engagement, we don't mean the get down on one knee type of engagement. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. But engagement here is those click-throughs, those likes, those shares, those comments. That is really what digital engagement looks like, and those are all key indicators that your content or your marketing is doing well. We'll look at social media, probably just the major platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. And it'll talk a little bit about video. I'll show you a couple of examples, and then we'll have time at the end for questions. So let's dive right in. You already received a wonderful introduction on me, so I won't go on about this, but I do work with small businesses and nonprofit organizations to help them scale their digital marketing efforts. Digital marketing really is a bit like chasing the horizon. And a lot of people say to me, I just can't keep up. It's too much. I have all this other work to do. I have other responsibilities in my life. And I've had the pleasure of working with some really great businesses in the Huron County area as well as beyond, to sort of help them strategize and form a little bit of a plan that works based on their budget and their sort of goals. So what is storytelling? So the topic of today's session is storytelling. What the heck does that mean? Brand storytelling is really what we're referring to. That's a little bit of marketing lingo for you. Your brand could be yourself. So let's say you're a realtor, for example, and you're in business for yourself. That brand is your personal brand, but you're using it for business purposes. Other organizations such as United Way, for example, will be, the United Way is the brand itself. Okay, so different folks on this call may have different brands, of course, come from different businesses. Some may be personal brands, some may be a business or nonprofit. Storytelling on social media can really help to influence customers when it's done well. The goals here would be to increase brand awareness, so letting more folks out there know about your particular brand and what you offer, expanding that reach and attracting new followers. Your particular story is how your organization will be remembered by audiences. And I will say this has become, I think, more important over the past, let's say, year or two with COVID. A lot of humans have been sort of separated by isolation. That sort of face-to-face piece is not perhaps as common as it was, sadly. And of course, businesses are absolutely built on word of mouth and offline tactics as well. But today's focus is really how we can take those digital platforms that we already have access to and use those to tell our brand story. And this can help to amplify our efforts. This can help to, of course, get more followers. And eventually we want to turn those followers into, donors, supporters, customers, and so on. So telling those folks a story is key. If you're just sort of talking about yourself all the time on social media, it's very easy for folks to unfollow you. And we all have those people. I know I have some of those people in my own personal network that it's just me all the time. We're doing this, or buy this, or I want this, or I want, that doesn't really work. It's not really a sales tool. And telling a story, going a little bit deeper, highlighting some, some reasons behind why the organization was started, for example, can really help to build that connection using those digital platforms that we'll talk a little bit more about. So telling your donors a story, telling your prospects a story, telling your customers a story, you can activate their empathy. You can get people to care. People click on things on Facebook and so on because it interests them and because they care. If it's boring, if it's not engaging, if it doesn't catch their eye, they're going to keep on scrolling. And we live in an era where folks have quite a short attention span. So if you think about yourself and how you use social media, let's say in your own time, many of us, I'm certainly guilty of this. Many of us are just sort of scrolling through, right? We're scrolling. We're not necessarily taking the time to read every single thing in depth. There's a lot of information in Facebook, in Twitter, in Instagram, in YouTube, and you can go down that rabbit hole, and people do. You can get lost. You can go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. So it's a tricky task, I think, for marketers and for folks who are trying to build a brand online, because we only have that short little window to get people's attention. And folks are often multitasking. If you are anything like me, you're on social media and perhaps you have some other things on the go. Maybe the TV's on, maybe your kids are running around, maybe you're trying to get some other work done. This is very common. So I say this because I want folks to understand that if people don't click on every single thing, if people don't comment on every single thing, that's okay. But what you want to do is aim for slow and steady growth over time. Your Facebook account, your Twitter, Instagram, if you have it, should be seeing steady growth. Not every single post you make is going to be a hit, but what you want to look for are broader trends, okay? So storytelling can really help to engage people, get them to care a little bit more about what you're doing, and to stick in people's minds. It also can be a great way to convey messages and information. Now, nonprofit organizations exist often because there's a pretty big problem that needs addressing. It may be mental health, it may be food insecurity, it may be, an environmental issue. All of these topics can be quite meaty, they can be quite heavy. And what we generally recommend as marketing experts is that you sort of break down that information and try not to overwhelm people. So a story helps to tie it all together. And I'll show you some examples of brands that have done this well. You're conveying your message, you're conveying some information about your cause and the need to support your cause without sort of overwhelming people and writing a big, long post. Studies have shown that oftentimes those short little bits of information, an image with a short caption, for example, a short video, and by short, I mean sometimes 15 seconds is enough. Dispersed over time regularly is often the best approach to growing your audience and getting those click-throughs, getting people to sign up for your newsletter, getting them to donate, getting them to attend your event, and so on. Whatever your goals might be, you can approach social media as sort of the first sort of experience that they may have with your messaging. So if there's any marketing people on the call, you may be familiar with the sort of marketing funnel. At the top of the funnel, there would be social media tools. And as people move through the funnel, they get closer to converting. So when they convert, that's when they give money. That's when they buy a ticket to an event. That's when they sort of become a donor or a customer. So storytelling is really sort of can be that first piece. And it can also help engage folks who are already connected to your brand. In a sense, you can keep in touch with them this way, especially if you don't see these people face to face as often as you perhaps did in the past. So what can your goals actually be with storytelling? I feel like I'm really hyping it up here. And I want you guys to, if you take away a couple of things from this session that you can implement right away, or a couple of aha moments, then, my job is done. Like I said, I'm happy to share these slides with you, but some of the goals that can be achieved through storytelling using social media are up here on the screen. And these are targeted mostly to nonprofit organizations, since United Way is hosting this call today. So first off, any nonprofit, of course, wants to raise money. Who doesn't want to have more money coming in, right? You have more money, you can make more impact. So certainly that's number one. Improving click-throughs. So this is a big one, because if folks are engaged on your Facebook, on your Instagram, and so on, from time to time, you can encourage them, remind them to visit your website for more information, or visit a page within your site, again, to sign up, to learn more. And the website is sort of that next step for most folks. Grow your membership. Of course, you want your membership to grow over time. Educate potential donors on the issues. Any of the issues are evolving, right? Especially with COVID. So using social media as a tool to educate people, keep people informed on what's going on in the world can be very powerful. Thanking your donors for support. So this is my opinion. I think that social media can sometimes be put in a negative place, and I don't like that. I think that everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I think that the real leaders and the brands that I think do really good work, are not necessarily shying away from difficult topics, but they're framing them in a positive way. So, showing appreciation for volunteers, showing appreciation for those folks who have donated, even during a tough time of year or a tough period. Thanking people goes a long way. And it's also a great tool if you're going, okay, what are we going to post this week? We don't have anything, pressing to share on our social media platforms. So why don't we do another thank you? Or why don't we profile someone who has given their time or their money or their expertise to help us. Giving back and showing a gratitude and showing appreciation, I think, can be a really powerful approach. And last but not least, using storytelling to inspire loyalty and trust. This is a big one if your organization is new or new-ish, and perhaps the general public may not be particularly familiar with it just yet, so they don't necessarily know you. And this is not a criticism by any means, but often I'll work with new brands who, are sort of entering the marketplace, so to speak, and sort of trying to establish their brand. And part of that really is getting people to trust them. Why should I give my money? If I have X amount of money to donate this Christmas season, why should I donate it to your organization versus all the many other organizations that are, asking for my donation as well? So that loyalty and trust piece takes time. And social media can be part of a larger strategy to inspire loyalty in your followers, inspire trust, show that you're doing really, really good work. Rather than just saying it, you can show it. You can show images of the impact that your previous work has had on the community. Any images you're able to show, short videos you're able to show of events, recipients of your charity, if that's feasible. If you have permission to profile someone who's benefited from your service or benefited from your organization's work. This can be a tricky one. You use your best judgment to approach this person because there are, of course, privacy issues to consider and people's feelings to consider. But showing the impact and telling the story of a person who can benefit from this is fantastic. If you want to see an example of what I'm talking about, you should check out the Sickkids Foundation. They do a really fantastic job at A, tugging at your heartstrings, and B, storytelling, because they'll often profile a child who's in hospital and or outpatient, and a child who is suffering from some type of health problem that Sickkids is sort of working with them to help. So they have photos of the children. They sometimes make videos. They obviously have permission from the parents for this, but it really helps you as a potential donor if you're considering donating to such an organization. It helps you to visualize the impact that your money can make. These children are sick. That if that doesn't tug at your heartstrings, I don't know what does. But they are brilliant marketing folks behind Sickkids Foundation, and they've won awards for their campaigns and so on. So to me, that's a good one to just watch, not to copy them, but just to get some inspiration and see how things are rolling out. So I'm telling you, you should do storytelling. Guys, do storytelling. Okay, you're going, okay, Emily, like, what the heck are we actually going to talk about? What are our stories? Like, what are these stories going to be? So let me give you some ideas. Now, I can't tell you exactly what your story should be because I don't know your organization inside and out. But I can give you some sort of thought starters or some approaches that you can sort of take away and consider and perhaps do some brainstorming. By the way, if any of you have done some storytelling with your organization before and you want to share it in the chat, please feel free. We'd love to hear from you and hear about what worked and what didn't work, and if you have any thoughts to share with the group. So your particular brand, your nonprofit, your small business, will have its own story. What I like to start with is going back to the why, going back to why does this organization or this business exist in the first place? And that's usually because one person or one group of people had a vision and they wanted to make an impact. They saw a gap in the marketplace, or they saw a need in their community, and that's what motivated them to get started. Those stories are emotional. Those stories are what inspire people. And don't forget to include that type of stuff when you're creating some storytelling content. Your community is so important, and there are no doubt loads of stories that you can sort of pull from in your own community. So if there are community players in action, they may be community partners, they may be folks that you work with, they may be folks that support you or you support them. Share those stories. It doesn't have to be all about your brand all the time. If there are some folks in your community doing wonderful things, you can share that content as well. And you can repost content. So don't feel like every single post, you know, if you're going to post 3 times a week on your Facebook page, for example, don't feel like it always has to be stuff that's originated by you or by your social media marketing manager. You can repost content that is relevant, of course, from others. So if there's someone in your community that attended an event of yours, for example, and they made a post about it, perhaps you could share that post, and that is what we call social proof. That shows the other followers that you already have that their peers are engaged, their peers are participating, and that all is part of a larger marketing strategy to engage people. So community first, it's so important in rural communities, I think, and with nonprofit organizations around the world, you know, share those stories about, you know, the work in action. Your volunteers or your employees. I mentioned this already, but I'll say it again. Each volunteer of yours, each employee of yours has their own story as to what brought them here, as to what motivated them to want to engage with your organization. And as long as they're good employees, as long as they're good volunteers, I would definitely consider sharing some stories, doing a little spotlight series, perhaps, talking with them, interviewing them, creating perhaps a short little video of them. By the way, when I talk about creating video, you do not need to have fancy video equipment. If you have access to a studio, great. If you have the budget for a studio, great. But I will say most folks have a pretty good video camera right here on their phone. As long as you have a relatively new smartphone, chances are you already have the tools to create some good content right in your hand. Your products or events. So whatever it is that your charity or your business is sort of selling, and when I say selling, I don't necessarily mean people buying something, but if it's, let's say, a silent auction, let's say it's tickets to an online fundraiser, a gala, the list goes on. You definitely want to showcase that. And you can use images, you can use video, you can use testimonials perhaps from people who participated last time. If it's a Christmas market, you can interview some of the vendors that are coming up and get people excited about what's coming. If you as a marketer are not excited about what you're sharing on your social media channels, how can you expect your followers to get excited? So I know it can be a chore. I know sometimes people say, Emily, like, I can't keep up with 3 posts a week, let alone 5 posts a week. Like, that's a lot for me, given my workload. I totally understand that. In that case, you know, there's always another way. There's, you know, perhaps bring in some volunteers. There's perhaps hiring a student. There's batching the content, which is when you sit down for, let's say, an hour or so, and you create a whole bunch of posts at the same time, similar but a little bit different each time, and you save them, schedule them to drop into your social media channels every week or every few days, so that you're not sort of stuck to your computer the whole time. So a few sort of thought starters on what your story topics might be, and then how do you actually get people to click through? How do you get people to comment? How do you get people to want to donate? There's some pretty cost-effective tactics. Certainly advertising, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, is an option. Particularly on Facebook and Instagram. That's where you'll get the best bang for your buck if you have a small budget or a large budget for paid advertising on social media. Do you need to do paid advertising? No. Certainly if you don't have a budget, don't sweat it. Maybe perhaps later on you will. For now, I'm going to give you some tips that will help you to boost the number of likes, comments, shares, and click-throughs. So the first one here is to ask your audience questions. Okay, so social media is meant to be, well, social. It's not sort of a one-way conversation. It's not like a print ad or a TV commercial or a radio commercial where we're delivering our message to the audience and just sort of putting it out there and letting it sort of, impact people, or hoping that it impacts people. Social media is different. People have an expectation as a social media user that brands will engage with them. How many times have you gone to a restaurant and written a review online, for example? That's an example of how we as a culture have changed, and we expect to have that two-way sort of feedback, whether we had a good experience or a bad experience. People will write stuff online, and generally they expect a brand to sort of reply or perhaps acknowledge what they've said. So asking your audience questions can be a great way to get people to comment. So you're not just saying, hey guys, here's this thing, look at it. You're saying, what would you like to see? What are you most excited about this holiday season? What issues are most important to you as a community member, as a parent, as a senior citizen? The list goes on. You can really kind of customize these to your own sort of branding, your own sort of initiatives. Share success stories. Everybody loves a success story. If your organization has won an award, if someone who works at your organization has won an award or had a great achievement, if someone that has benefited from your charity or your business has done something great or achieved a milestone, celebrate them. Even if you don't have a picture perfect image of that person, that's okay. Work with what you have and try to share those happy stories, those positive stories, those small wins, no matter how small they are. They can make a difference in people's lives. And to be honest with you, like the human element, I think is so crucial when we're talking about social media these days. Folks are more attuned, I think, than ever to BS. So if a brand or a person is BSing online, you can tell me if you agree with me. We have sort of a little bit of a radar for that, right? We can kind of sense that if people are, saying things that were kind of that are being exaggerated, or they're just all about themselves, that's a big turnoff, right? We can choose to unfollow those brands. We can choose to unfollow those people. So I think that, keeping it authentic and not trying to be picture perfect every single time is okay. As long as you adhere to, if you have brand standards in place, you want to make sure that your logo is consistent and your, font is consistent and things like that. But not every single thing has to be sort of super professional done by a designer. Another way to boost engagement on your social media is to tag relevant partners. So let's say you're organizing an event with a couple of other organizations, or a couple organizations are your sponsors. In that case, I would absolutely tag them in every post that you do that relates to that initiative. So for example, United Way, Perth-Huron shared a tweet about this upcoming session, and they tagged Libro. So that's a good example of tagging those relevant partners. Those partners then may choose to share that post on their own social media platform. So you're getting a chance at increasing the reach of your particular social media post and more people seeing it, which is what you want. Incorporating short video can be a really good way to get more views, to get more growth, to get more click-throughs. Video can definitely be a little bit more work to produce, but like I said, it doesn't need to be, you don't need a professional videographer necessarily to create some short videos for social media. Smartphone is probably just fine. And, they can be sort of like a handheld video behind the scenes. Say you're getting ready for an event and you have a few volunteers working hard to prepare and set up. Why not do a quick clip of them, hard at work to show, okay, we're excited, we're getting ready, we want to see you come out and participate, that sort of thing. Always include links to more information. So when folks are interested in something they see on social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram, if they are interested in getting more information, they will most likely want to visit a website rather than, let's say, pick up the phone. Okay, so we want to make it easy for them. We want to make it super simple, seamless, quick, easy. Information's easy to find, and that can be done by including hyperlinks. Including hyperlinks in your Facebook post is very easy. You would include it at the end of the caption. On Instagram, it's a little more tricky because, as you probably know, Instagram posts do not allow for live hyperlinks in their captions. I wish they did, but at this time they do not. So what a lot of folks will do is they'll say, visit our link in the bio, and then you can change or update the about section or your bio section on your Instagram profile. So you can change out that link week to week if you like, or you can leave it the same, but you want to direct people, let them know where they can go to get more information about what you're talking about. So if you going back to that funnel idea, we're sort of getting their attention, early attention using social media, and then sort of going down that funnel, so to speak. And that's where they would sort of visit the link for more information. By the way, they may visit a website a few times before actually signing up or before making that donation. It may be a long sort of cycle between donations or between purchases. That's normal. So don't expect like all of this is going to happen overnight. Social media marketing and storytelling really are about doing things consistently, creatively, and giving it some time. So, if you're getting frustrated because you're saying you're not seeing the results you had hoped for, certainly a consultant such as myself can sort of take a look, but generally you wouldn't put up a post and then expect a whole bunch of signups right away. It takes some time to sort of percolate. So that's why it's important to post regularly and post consistently on your social media platforms. So let's talk about the actual social media platforms. So here I've listed out what I think are the most relevant platforms for you guys. Facebook is still the #1 most used social media platform, even though they keep getting flack and they keep getting dragged in the news, and they're changing their name to Meta next year and all this crazy stuff. But here we are, and they're still the most commonly used social media platform as of now. So on Facebook, you have a few options for delivering your message. Of course, that's your Facebook business page, which is your organizational page. You also have the option of sharing work-related or volunteer-related content on personal accounts. So you've probably seen folks in your network that will do this. Something is shared to the organization's page, and then some folks who work there will repost onto their own personal networks. And that's a really great way of amplifying your content. If your staff or your volunteers are, reputable and trustworthy, that can be a nice thing to, you could ask them. I would probably not require them to do it, but certainly if they're willing to share with their personal networks, that can really help to grow your engagement. Also on partner pages. So I gave the example of United Way and Libro. There are going to be countless other partnerships probably that your organization might deal with. Even Chamber of Commerce and organizations like that you may be, or professional associations that you may be a member of, for example. The town that you operate in, for example, that's another one. You can tag these various partners and encourage them to share your content on their pages. So again, you're getting sort of more bang for your buck, and it doesn't cost anything. On Instagram, I highly recommend that folks who are using Instagram for professional purposes make the switch to a business account or a professional account. It's very easy to do in your settings, and it gives you a little bit more in the way of options. If you want to run ads at some stage, you can do that. It also gives you a lot more metrics and analytics, so you can see more clearly how your posts are performing, how your Instagram stories are performing, how many click-throughs you're getting, and so on. That data is included for free. It doesn't cost anything to have a business account, but you don't get that necessarily that level of information with a regular account. So go into your settings if you haven't done so. It takes like 2 minutes, and it doesn't change a whole lot in the terms of the appearance. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility. On Twitter, you may have a Twitter account already up and running for your organization. The brand account itself obviously will be the sort of primary channel that you'll use on Twitter. Again, you want to incorporate multimedia in all these platforms, including Twitter. So yes, you can just write a caption and send it, but it's nice to include an image or a short video if possible. If folks who are leaders in your organization are active on Twitter, again, that's a great opportunity for you to get more amplification, more growth, and use those, share those stories that are being published on the brand account. Encourage your leadership or your volunteers to share on their own accounts as well. Again, these personal accounts should only be used if the person is obviously trustworthy. If you've just hired someone and you don't really know them yet, I would probably exercise caution in asking them to share some of the content. But if you know them, if you know that they're solid, they have a good reputation, then I think it can be a really great way of showing what your organization is up to. Last but not least is YouTube. So YouTube is basically a search engine unto itself now. People spend so much time on YouTube. And although there is just an absolute sea of content that lives there, it can be a worthwhile endeavor if you have a few videos, or you plan to create more videos for your organization. So that is pretty easy to set up through a Google account, but I would probably not set one up until I had maybe 2 or 3 videos to publish. And you can point people to your YouTube channel, to your YouTube videos, specifically from your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, and so on. So these are the major social media platforms, or the most typically used social media platforms at this stage. If you're thinking, Emily, what about TikTok? Yes, TikTok is very popular too. But do you need to be on there for your brand or your business right now? No. In fact, you don't need to be on all of the major social media platforms at all. Generally, I recommend that organizations have 2 to 3 platforms that they're active on, and often that's enough. So you don't have to manage 5 or 6 different accounts. That's a lot of work. And if you have a staff person that can do it, great. But you want to keep in mind that whatever social media accounts your brand opens and starts and makes public, they need to be continuously updated. They need to be continuously fueled with really good content. So, that's a job unto itself. And it's better to do 2 platforms well than to do 5 platforms not so well. You see what I'm getting at? So, it's up to you. The worst thing is to have an account that's gone dormant. So let's say a couple of years ago, you started a Twitter and then you became sidetracked with other responsibilities. And now your Twitter is out there in the Twitterverse, but hasn't been updated in over a year. That's a problem, because if folks come across that channel and they see that you haven't shared anything in over a year, they're going to wonder, is this person still around? Is this organization still operating? Is this business still existing? COVID has changed a lot of things for a lot of people. So users are not necessarily going to take the time to do some digging. If they see a dormant account, you don't want them to get the wrong idea. So if you have an account that hasn't been used in a long time and you're not going to use it, you're not going to use it, I would take it down, because you don't want folks to get the wrong idea about all the hard work that you're putting into your organization. So a few thoughts generally on social media. You want to target your efforts where your donors or customers or potential supporters are already spending their time. Generally, we say to share a mix of images, short video. You can share news articles if they're relevant. Here, I would say, make sure those news articles are from reputable sources, because sadly, we live in an era of fake news, and you want to make sure that what you're sharing is factual and correct and not particularly biased, and would appeal to your audience. Bite-sized content is best. Don't worry about writing a novel. Don't worry about making a huge, long piece. Smaller, easier to digest information, posting a few times a week is the best approach. And check out new features. You may find that, for example, Instagram Reels is a great tool for you. It gets you a lot more views. Some of my clients have said they've started experimenting with Instagram Reels, which, by the way, are sort of short videos that are incorporated into the Instagram app. And they've seen a little bit of growth in terms of the number of people following their account. So it's up to you. I won't tell you have to do things like that, but it can be beneficial to explore the new features that are being added to the major social media platforms, and see if they work for you. Use those high quality images wherever you can. Not every piece that you share is going to be like super stunning, especially if it's behind the scenes, but people generally, I think, understand that and prefer the authenticity of your efforts. So a quick word on paid social. Ads and Facebook boosts are commonly used on Facebook and Instagram. If your reach is declining, if you're not getting a lot of views, if you're not getting a lot of engagement, it could be a number of factors, but paid social is usually the quickest way to get more folks seeing your content and attracting those comments, attracting those shares, attracting those visits to your site. The nice thing about Facebook and Instagram ads are that the budget that you use on your ads is completely up to you. So if you have 20 bucks to spare and you want to spend that 20 bucks on an ad, great, you can do that. If you have 200 bucks that you want to spend on the ad, that's good too. You're going to get more reach based on, your budget. Of course, it's scalable but you don't necessarily have to spend a certain amount. So again, totally up to you if you want to go with paid social, but I thought it was worth mentioning because it is a good way, I think, for folks to see your hard work. If you've created some great stories, if you've created some wonderful videos, you want to make sure that people are actually going to be able to see those. So we already talked a little bit about video. Video can be a great educational tool. People can absorb information by watching a video much more quickly than they can through reading a line by line on a screen. And by the way, a lot of folks don't like reading on a screen. Maybe you are one of them. It's hard to sit and read a long ream of text if you're watching on a computer or a laptop, or particularly on your phone, which most people are. That's a pretty small screen. So video is a way for people to absorb the information quicker, easier. They can be a little bit lazy, I like to call it, and that's okay. But you can get their attention through that quick video clip. And how do you get started? Well, start experimenting. Do this before you have something really pressing coming up that you need to deliver on. But do a few test runs is probably what I would recommend. Even if it's simple and is raw, that's okay. You can create a demo video, you can create a how-to piece, you can film a testimonial from someone. Have fun with the video, don't make it too long. And then once you're ready to share it, you would post it on your social media platforms. And you can also include it perhaps in your email newsletter if you have one. You can also include it on your website, perhaps, if that's appropriate. And you might want to put a little bit of a paid spend behind it if that's feasible for you. So here's a couple of examples of storytelling in action. This is a United Way infographic. I think this is from a United Way, perhaps in the US. This is how they've chosen to tell their story, okay? So it's the first sort of piece of text says what your dollar does. I like that headline because it's simple, but it gets your attention and it tells you what you can expect will come next in the rest of the post. So this is something that they shared across all of their sort of major social media platforms. And this tells a story. It presents a lot of information, but it does so, I think, in a way that is easy for people to understand and doesn't require people to read too much. There is a lot of information here, but it does sort of break it down for you. So just $1 a week can make a difference in countless lives. And they give some examples. $1, purchasing a $1 song on iTunes, or meals delivered to 72 people through Meals on Wheels. Well, obviously, the Meals on Wheels part seems a lot more impactful when they present it like this. $2 bag of chips, or an education for 5 kids. Wow, education for 5 kids sounds pretty great when you put it like that. $5 cup of coffee, that must be from Starbucks if it's $5. Counseling for 6 victims of sexual assault. So this is a nice way, I think, of motivating people to want to give, because they see that impact or the potential impact that their money can have, even if it's just $1. $1 is a very small amount, but this infographic helps to illustrate or tell the story of where that money goes. Here's another one. This is from a charity called No Kid Hungry. And this is a larger infographic. There's a lot more going on here, but you can see it tells a story. So it says breakfast changes lives. And then it says how. So it breaks down kids who eat school breakfast, miss less school, do better in math, more attendance, higher math scores. Kids who eat breakfast reap the benefits as adults too. So, they're saying high school graduates on average earn 10,000 more annually, and so on and so on. But the problem is not enough kids are eating school breakfast. Okay, so this is an American piece, but you can sort of see how it sort of brings you through the story. So breakfast changes lives is sort of the headline, okay? And that's sort of framed in a positive way. And then it's saying kids who eat school breakfast, you know, they have much better results, but then here's the problem. And then at the end of this piece, it says, learn how you can help at nokidhungry.org/breakfast. So it's directing people to visit that website, get more information, and perhaps become a supporter. So this is another example of another form of storytelling. This is an infographic. By the way, tools, there's a lot of online tools that can help you to create images like this. You don't have to be a professional graphic designer. If you work for a larger organization and you have a designer at your disposal, that's amazing. They could probably whip something up for you like this if you gave them the stats. But if you are sort of doing the social media yourself, have a look around on the internet, because there are a lot of infographic tools that can be free, that can allow you to take your information or your stats or the story behind your charity and help bring it to life in a manner such as this. So they're sort of outlined the problem, outlined, you know, what you can do to help, but provided a lot of complex information and broken it down using images, using stats, using pictures in a way that people can understand. So to summarize here, making the most of your social media is really what I want all of you to be able to do. And it's a number of things done simultaneously over time. There's no sort of quick fix when it comes to social media marketing. But I want you to take advantage of the tools that you already have that don't necessarily cost a dime. I know that budget is important when dealing with nonprofit organizations, and you're accountable to your donors, you're accountable to your stakeholders, and that's important. So incorporating short video, we talked about, responding to user comments quickly. So if someone writes something on your Facebook page or they comment on your Instagram, let's say, and they say, you know, I had such a great time at your event, or you know, thank you so much for the great work you do in our community, or they just say, I love this. Respond to those people, like their comment, write back to them and say thank you, or say you're welcome. That's that human touch that people really like. And certainly if there's any negative comments, you want to address those quickly and try to get them off the public forum. So let's say someone has an issue with like a ticket or something like that, and they're kind of ticked off. People will freely say that they're ticked off, and it's your job, I think, to sort of mitigate that, help them, even if you're on the inside going, oh my God, this person is so annoying. You want to respond to them, we're sorry that you're having problems, and then take it offline. So email them, get them to call you, whatever you need to do, so that you're not sort of having it out in a back and forth in that public forum. Be sure that your website URL is on all your social media accounts. If you don't have it there, it's a huge miss, okay? People who are liking what they see on social media will almost always visit the website that's available rather than pick up the phone. And if your website URL is not there, how do they get more information? Well, you know what? They might just say, forget about it, and they might just move on with their day. We don't want that to happen. So having that website URL handy, making sure it works well, updating it if you need to. By the way, you can update your website URL many, many times should you need to, or point to a particular page. So let's say you're advertising or promoting an upcoming holiday event. In this case, you may wish to change your website URL to the landing page for that particular event. You want to make sure that your about section is updated regularly. So have a look. Sometimes we forget about this because it's been sitting so long kind of behind the scenes. Is your about section on your Facebook page, is your bio section on your Instagram, is it still accurate? Is it still relevant? Double check because like I said, a lot of things have changed with COVID. Hours have changed, locations have changed, people have changed jobs. So you just want to double check and make sure that that's accurate. I sometimes get asked about hashtags, so I'll tell you here, I do think that hashtags can be useful for storytelling and for getting more engagement, particularly on Instagram. So on your Instagram captions, you can use up to 30 hashtags. Do you need to include 30 in each caption? No. Maybe 5 to 10 is probably good, but if you want to include more, have at it. You can also include hashtags on Instagram stories and on Instagram reels. So that's a little tip for you to check out. I wouldn't go overboard with the hashtags on stories and reels, but definitely include a few. And if your brand or your event has their own hashtag, for example, Sickkids has hashtag Sickkids versus, that's their sort of branded hashtag, then you want to make sure you include that in all of your posts. Hashtags on Facebook pages are sort of here nor there. Some marketing people think that they're worthwhile. Other marketing people think that they're a waste of time. I think it's okay if you want to include a couple, but don't expect that it's going to do anything super revolutionary for your engagement on your Facebook page. I think it's more beneficial on your Instagram and on your Twitter. So thank you guys for listening. I know that was a lot of information. At this stage, I'm happy to take any questions that anyone might have, either in the chat or if you want to turn on your mic. Happy to accommodate any curious minds.
Thanks so much, Emily. That was fantastic. I just wanted to comment that I really love the idea of highlighting, whichever format you choose, your volunteers and employees, especially now with COVID, when folks can't get that actual face-to-face with a lot of organizations and places. So I really love that idea, and I hope folks take you up on that. I hope folks make use of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's such an easy thing to do that sometimes we forget about. But again, it's that human element showing that you care. And quite honestly, people like it. You know, people who work there, or people who volunteer, they want to feel appreciated as well. So it can help with employee retention, volunteer retention, and so on. Sarah, thank you for your comment. Thank you. I enjoyed having you.
Emily, I'll just ask if you can stop sharing just for a moment so we can see everybody.
Sure.
Thank you. Any questions, or anyone want to share a story of using social media?
Emily, I just have a question. What would you say are kind of the best platforms to use to create social media content? I know before everyone was on, we were talking about Canva. Are there any other good ones that you can recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. I agree, Canva is fantastic. It just makes things so easy for templates. So for those of you who aren't familiar, canva.com is a free or almost free service that provides social media templates that you can customize, and then you can download them, and then you can share them on your brand's social media pages. So that's a really good one. There's so many apps out there for various different purposes in social media sort of creation. I like one called Snapseed. That's a really good one. It's actually a Google app. It's free, and it allows you to edit photos. So if you take photos on your smartphone, like a lot of us do, sometimes they're okay, but maybe not super amazing. Snapseed has a lot of tools that allow you to take a good photo and make it great. So I would definitely recommend checking that one out. Also, Instagram has a lot of built-in tools that allow you to edit video and allow you to edit images as well. So I often will use those built-in tools because they are so handy, and then you're ready to post straight away.
Great. Anyone else? All right, not hearing any. We have recorded this today. We have had a number of people that weren't able to make it. And so we'll be sharing the recording as well for everyone to reference again, or to share amongst your teams. Thank you for your time, everyone. I know it's very precious, and the ability to come to Zoom meetings is getting tiresome, but really appreciate that and want to hear from you. So if there's anything that you want us to be able to provide you, please let us know. And the question in the chat, yes, we will have the slides available as well. Emily's willing to share, so that's wonderful. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you to Libro, amazing and wonderful supporters, Marty for being here, and to Lauren and Lisa for your support on this. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.